Alright, hey, this is Stereo Police, back with a review of the Klipsch Forte 3. And this is a speaker that I purchased unheard roughly 8 months ago, I believe. Between 6 and 8 months ago. And I'd recently moved to a new house, and I had sold my other equipment and my large speakers before moving. I had some Altec 19s and some others. I had some Riga speakers recently, but I've recently sold those, and I was looking for, again, I was looking for a speaker I could really live with for quite a long time, not to continually rotate them. And I've always enjoyed the sound of horn-loaded compression drivers in the mid-range and treble. And the Altec 19s I thought would get me to that place, and I enjoyed them, but I was a bit disappointed. They didn't quite do the trick. There was a tremendous amount of harshness in the mid-range frequencies, and the highs really weren't as delicate as I would have preferred, and that I was accustomed to hearing from good horn speakers. And I know a lot of people love those speakers, and they do justice to certain kinds of recordings, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. So I wanted to continue the trek for a good pair of horn-loaded speakers, because I think that horn or compression drivers can produce sound in with such low distortion and with such incredible dynamics in a way that just dome and cone tweeters and mid-ranges just can't do. They absolutely, when it comes to dynamics and just liveliness, they just can't compete. And that's not to say there aren't some just fantastic dome and cone based speakers out there, dynamic speakers out there. There are. I've had some, but ultimately horns are just my thing, I think. And so I was seeking to, well, basically when I'd heard that Klipsch had reintroduced the Forte speakers as a Forte 3, because they were out of production for many years, and I'd heard some Fortes decades and decades ago, I just decided to make that leap, and I purchased them unheard. And long story short, I'm not disappointed at all. In fact, I love them. These are probably one of the best purchases I've ever made, and my apologies, I forget the exact price. Are they $1,500-$1,600 each? Something like that. You look it up. I really don't remember. It's quite a hefty purchase. However, in the speaker world, there are quite a few far more expensive speakers, and I consider these to be, I think they would be, based on my overall impression, they would be a bargain at twice the price. And I don't say things like that. I don't use cliches and trite expressions like that loosely. I genuinely mean it. I probably wouldn't have purchased them at twice the price, but having heard them, I think they could be valued at that by many people. They're that good. And I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into listening impressions. I'm going to be pretty fairly well detailed in that department. I just wanted to basically get started here with part one of my Klipsch review. Just covering, first of all, I'm going to talk about what the manufacturer has to say about these, and then get into some of my impressions about their build quality and their construction. And then in parts two forward, I will get into listening impressions and sound quality. So let me start. I've got a couple of notes here, and I've printed out the manufacturer's brochure for these. And I'm going to pull this off the tripod in a minute and give you some close-ups, so bear with me. But these are three-way speakers. You can see we have a woofer and two compression drivers, a compression mid-range driver coupled to a horn, and that mid-range horn is a patented horn. Let me throw some light on there. It's kind of a weird shape. Klipsch has a name for it. I forget what it is, but it's a recently patented design. And then kind of a standard Klipsch type tweeter compression driver coupled to a standard Klipsch type horn. Although it's got some weird angles to it, so I'm sure there's some patent associated with that or some special design. It looks like a parabola type horn, but it does. I'll get some close-ups of that in a minute. So here's what Klipsch has to say. Well, they have to say that the frequency response of these speakers is 38 hertz to 20 kilohertz with a sensitivity of 99 decibels at 2.83 volts per meter. Now, that means inputting 2.83 volts, which would I should have looked that up. I think that would produce 1 watt in an 8 ohm load. I think. Don't quote me on that. Something like that. Would produce a sound pressure level of 99 decibels. That means 1 watt. These things will get tremendously loud to the point of being uncomfortable. So these speakers would work just fine with any tube amp you can throw at it. I'm driving in with transistor amps, and I'm sure these amps I barely know that they're even working. I mean, they're so efficient, and that is actually a good thing especially if you have this happens to be a Class A integrated, but if you have a Class AB amp at very low, a traditional Class AB amp or receiver or whatever you have, which is nowadays a lot of amps are Class D switching, but traditional style amps in Class AB, then the first fraction of a watt, they are biased into Class A, and that's the most. I mean, that's the linear portion that you want, and so these speakers have an added benefit is that they need so little power that at least at low listening levels, your amp will be biased into Class A before it switches over to AB or before it switches over to B. So that's a little added benefit with highly efficient speakers, and these things are incredibly efficient. When I had my other amp hooked up, the Yamaha AS1100, it has VU meters on the front calibrated to 8 ohm load. These are 8 ohm speakers, and I would switch the VU meter to power output, and it never broke a watt. It never broke a watt, and even cranking it up to the point where I didn't want it any louder, never broke a watt. That's amazing. That's phenomenal. So these could be powered with Fleewatt amplifiers and power handling 100 watts / 400 watts. I guess that's 100 continuous, 400 dynamic. Doesn't say. Maximum sound pressure level 116 decibels. That's hearing damage territory. You not even consider getting that high. That's like being at the front row of a Who concert in 1978. Crossover points. Okay, so let me start with the woofer, and I'll get to the crossover in a minute. The woofer on the front, we have a where is it? It is a 12-inch paper cone woofer, and on the rear, and when I pull this off the tripod, I'll show you. We have a 15-inch passive radiator, a paper cone, and we have the mid-range is a I'm reading from Klipsch here. The mid-range is a 1.75-inch titanium diaphragm compression driver with a K703 horn, and the high-frequency driver is a 1-inch titanium diaphragm compression driver with a K79T horn. And the crossover frequencies, well, the woofer crosses over to the mid-range at 650 hertz, and the mid-range crosses over to the tweeter at 5.2K. That's right on the money. The mid-range handles all of the human voice range and beyond. Most of it, at least, except for the lower bass. And the height is 36 inches, depth 16.5, depth is 13, width is 16.5, and each of them weighs 72 pounds. 72 pounds, they're heavy, and they're awkward to carry. So that's what Klipsch has to say. Just looking if there's anything else. Again, these are made in the USA. These are Klipsch Heritage Series, or not the other Klipsch speakers that are made in China. And they claim their mid-range is patented. I haven't looked up the patent. I don't know what's so special about it. The mid-range horn, that is patented. And Klipsch claims with the Forte 3s that the compression drivers along with their phase plugs are all redesigned. So an upgrade over the previous generations of Fortes, according to Klipsch. I have no reason to doubt. Alright, so let me pull this off the tripod and let's get a closer look at things here. And I don't have a script. I am just fumbling and bumbling along here, trying to figure out what I want to say. I kind of know some things I want to talk about. So my room is kind of dim down here. I'm going to get a flashlight. Let me turn the brightness down a little bit. So there's the woofer. It's a paper cone. And these are a little dusty. You can see the dust right there. I listened to them with the covers off. And there's the mid-range compression driver. Can't really see a phase plug. And there is the tweeter, the high-frequency compression driver with a phase plug right in the middle, built into the horn. Try to get a close-up there. I don't really see a phase plug. It's probably behind that screen. There's a little screen in there to keep, I'm guessing, to keep bugs and things out. I love the, what's the name of that? It has that, what's the type of surround is that? The corrugated surround. It's a paper. That's some kind of other material, but very, very stiff. I don't like pushing woofers in, but very stiff. Alright. Construction overall very good. It is, I will say, I'm going to go over the highs and the lows, the likes and the dislikes. Here is the grill, the dust cover. It fastens. It doesn't fasten. It's got these little magnets at various places. You can see that magnet. There's another one there and there and there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 of them. And it attaches right to these little screws that go in there. They snap right on. The grills fit a little tight, and once you get them on, there's no little tab anywhere that sticks out to actually pull them off. So when they're on, let me put the camera down. I'm gonna snap. You can kind of hear it snap into place when the magnets. Okay, so there we have the little Forte right there. It doesn't say 3, it just says Forte, but so they're snapped into place. They fit nice, but they're hard as heck to get off. And I was thinking about putting a little fabric tab in there somehow so I can pull it, because I put them on and take them off a lot. But you can see this little marking in the wood right here. Well, that's me accidentally, as I'm using my fingers to try to get a hold of that edge and pull it out, accidentally scratching the wood right there. So you got to be very careful putting these on and taking them off. And that's kind of a gripe. I wish they just put a little piece of fabric there to pull on them and the grill snaps off. Would be real simple to do. I like the finish. They come in various finishes. I forget what this is, but I like a darker kind of wood. So very well done, very well constructed. These things are built like a tank. I mean, they're solid. Let's get a look at the back. You'll see their own risers, by the way. I'm going to cover these later. These little wood crates at the bottom, flipped upside down. These speakers need to be elevated at least 5-6 inches. They need to be at ear height. The tweeters in the mid-ranges, or it's particularly the tweeter, needs to be at ear height during critical listening as you're sitting in the chair. And unless you're sitting in a beanbag chair close to the ground, they're not at the right height. It makes all the difference in the world. They have to be either tilted or elevated. They have to be for the best sound. It makes a it's a remarkable difference. All right, so I'm going to move this. It took me a long time to find the right angles for these, the right tilt or toe-in angles for these things. I just destroyed that. But okay, so here's the back. Now, starting with the top, we have this little sticker here that says Forte 3, and it has the serial number, 8 ohms, and it's signed by the person who tested it. Klipsch was known for that. They used to have in their older speakers pieces of paper that would fall off. Well, this isn't paper. This is some kind of a plastic material. It's going to last. However, I don't know if you can see it. Over time, this whole thing starts to peel away, and I constantly have to push it on again. Peels away. It kind of bubbles in the middle, and it's not going to last. I don't know how I'm going to permanently fix that, because I want to make sure the serial numbers remain on the backs of the speakers. So that is some kind of that's a flaw in my opinion. Okay, so here is the passive radiator. It's massive. It has a rubber surround to it. It's not foam. These speakers are going to last a long time. Nice, with a little gentle tap, a nice deep note. There's no doubt that these things produce frequencies down to at least 38 hertz. And here are the binding posts. Right now I just have some inexpensive speaker wire run to them. They can be, I'm going to upgrade the speaker wire later. They can be bi-wired. They have these little links between the tweeter and the woofer. They're in right now because I'm not bi-wiring them. But you could bi-amplify or bi-wire them if you want to. I've never noticed sonic improvement. I've tried that over the years, and never noticed any improvement in sound. Personally, I haven't, but some people like that. So overall, well constructed. They're beautiful looking. They look great with the covers, the grills on or off. For listening, it's a certainty they have to be off. There is a difference in the high frequency reproduction with the grills on. It kind of veils or smears the high frequencies a bit, or at least steps on the highs a little bit, and it's a necessity that these covers are off when doing any critical listening. But just background music and that sort of thing, you probably want them on because you don't want too much dust. My house is a bit dusty, and you don't want too much dust settling up into the horns. So that's why I wish the grill covers had a little tab on there for easy removal, and I'm going to do that myself because I'm constantly putting them on and taking them off. So overall, very happy with the construction. Let me see if I had anything else I wanted to say. I don't think I do. I want to move right on to the listening tests, but I will say, I'll cover that during the listening test. But again, they need to be elevated. I'm going to sit down here at ear level and hold the camera at ear level, and you can see I'm right on par with the tweeter. Mid-range, slightly below ear level. I've just tilted that one out a little bit. But that's where they have to be. You're missing out if you put these things on the floor. You're sitting in an ordinary chair and your ear is 6-8 inches above the tweeter. You're really missing out. They've got to be elevated. And as far as the toe-in angle and the cant, experimentation is required. I've experimented. I'm going to cover this in the next video over moving these things left and right, in and out, separating the separation distance, greater, less than, different tilt toe-in angles, and I've come to a point where I'm very satisfied, and it makes a huge difference in sound. With what I have, that's basically the angle of the speaker right there. So if you were to draw a line perpendicular to the center of the tweeter cone or the mid-range or the woofer, it would intersect the line from the other speaker at the back of my head about 3 or 4 feet. So they're not directly headed at me. And I'll explain what difference that makes in the sound, but it does. I'll cover that in the next video or two. So I'm going to wrap part 1 up, and again, well constructed. A couple of minor nits. The minor nits are that little sticker on the back that keeps falling off, the one with the serial number, and as well the grill covers needed a tab to remove them without having to use your fingernails and scratching the wood. Actually, the wood is not really scratched, it's the finish. I scratched a little bit right there. And I'm going to do that myself. I'm going to try to figure out a way to permanently affix those labels, or maybe they're under warranty. Maybe I'll call Klipsch and see if they have a solution. Okay, that's enough for part 1 of the Klipsch Forte review. I'm going to get into some serious listening impressions in parts 2 and 3 or 4. I don't want these videos to be too long, so I might break them up. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hope this was informative, and I'll see you at the next video, which I'm probably going to make tomorrow or the next day. Okay, thanks for watching. Ciao.